The rudiments are 400 to 500 years old, and they've taken many, many generations to develop. The top players in the world tend to be in the drum corps world, and they develop more every year because they get a little bit bored with what they're working on. So the list that we all use throughout the world now is called the Percussive Art Society International Drum Rudiments. So if you can find that handout, that'll help you understand the language of drumming and how we're using it. The next list beyond this would be called hybrid drum rudiments, which uses these rudiments just modified and made much more difficult. Now, when you boil them all down to just really basic patterns, many of the great artists over the years on drums have broken it down to just a few. The first one is the single. Then when you put two notes per hand together, that's the double. And then the flam is an ornament or a grace note attached to a single note. When you add two ornaments, that becomes what they call a drag. So when we start out, you're going to want to try to get your hands so they can play comfortably as long as possible without wearing out. That involves a lot of different things with hands, how your fingers work and your wrists and everything else. You can search the internet and find a wide variety of opinions on how that works. What I like to do is try to get them going and try to develop some stamina, which takes probably at least a minute per pattern every day. Try to take your stroke. I try to keep it from straight up to hitting the pad and coming back up. You want your hand very relaxed. Keep all your fingers on the stick and open your sticks to over 90 degrees. And then just relax and see if you can get them to be even. Now, by doing that for a prolonged period of time, gradually your hands will get a little bit faster. Your fingers will come into play. You'll need to deal with what are my wrists doing, what are my arms doing. Here's a few basic rules. Economy of motion is one of the most important percussion technique rules. You want the stick to do everything for you. The smaller the muscle, the faster you tend to go. If you use big muscles, your sticks will go slower. You may be able to play louder, but you're going to wear out much quicker. So as you increase your speed, just try to relax, especially from the spine and the shoulders clear out through your arms. So that'll give you a little bit of insight on how to explore just the single strokes. The next one would be the double. When you're playing the double, try to keep them so they're really even. Now, a good thing to use for the double is you have essentially two parts of the double. The not bounced part, which works really well actually on a pillow. If you're playing it on a pad, you don't want the stick to bounce. You want to try to develop the speed as far as you can, not bouncing the stick. The bouncing technique is a whole different thing. So when you're working on the normal double bounce roll, part of it you'll use some of these fingers, part of it you use a little bit of lift. Once you get that so it's a little bit comfortable, just work on a bounce at a time. Try to get the weaker hand, if you're right-handed, to work the same. Go back and forth, a little bit of lift, a little bit of fingers, a little bit of wrist. Then you want to try to get it so you can do it for a good long period of time. A really good way to do that is just, if you watch television, put your pad on your lap, practice your double bounce for a television show. If you did that every day, after about a month, your double bounce will be nice and stable, you'll have some stamina, and actually some pretty good control. Now that is a technique that's going to go into any rudiment that will have a double bounce in it, which is the majority of the rudiments. Now going back to the not bounce double, if you can play the second note of each double a little louder, first of all, it makes it harder to play. And then you can just gradually push yourself so it becomes a little more control on the second half of each hand. As you put that into all these other rudiments, it's going to open up how much more control that you'll actually have. There's no end on how fast you can play these rudiments. It's a personal thing. The third rudiment would be adding the ornament or the flam. So your normal note will be however loud the music's going to be. The ornament, if you bend your wrist and play a soft note, that's actually going to be too loud. If you turn on the snare, take off the pad, that's too loud for an ornament. An ornament should be barely just a touch, about like that. So I find that actually if you don't even do much, just barely move your arm and just touch it, that's plenty. So when you put that on your flam, it just widens the note a little bit. So it makes it really handy to play with the pad because you can play a lot louder. But you should essentially almost not even hear that ornament note. So if you notice, I'm barely doing anything with that grace note, ornament note. So work on one side until you get a really good feel for keeping that really quiet. What tends to go wrong is this thing starts to grow. So as you play your flam, if you bend your wrist, pretty soon now it's just huge. It's not an ornament anymore. The minute it gets a little higher than about an inch or so, and it's a loud note, it's not an ornament. So it's not really a flam or a drag anymore. So work on one side for a while. Increase your speed. Do the other side. When you get it so you feel like you want to try to go back and forth, take some time between each one to prepare it. And if you use a mirror, you can really start seeing if you're developing any kind of bad habits. So this is usually what I see. See how that little ornament just gets bigger, and it's not an ornament anymore. It's not really a flam. Now when you add the double bounce into another note, it's the drag. So you want to just do one on one side for a while. As you speed it up, it's just a tiny little double bounce. It needs to be perfectly clear. Then you can do the other side. When you want to go back and forth, take some time between each one to prepare it. Another one that we use a lot is the buzz. So one of the songs that's really important in our country is the national anthem or the Star-Spangled Banner. The drum roll is the drum part. So if you want to really see how good you are with the buzz, sing the Star-Spangled Banner and play your buzz roll and see if you can get all the way to the end, even with a couple verses. It's a challenge because most people don't really have a very good buzz and they use big muscles. So that's more what I see in most students. They try to manhandle the buzz. The trick about a buzz is try to get the stick weight to do all of your buzzing. So essentially if you set it on there and let it buzz on its own, that's more what you're after. Plus it will eliminate any of the accents on each hand. So if you can get them so they're all about the same height and letting the stick weight work, that works better. You can squeeze a little bit to make the texture a little more dense. But essentially, when you play a buzz, you don't really go that fast. You're trying to get more of the quality of the buzz. Now, when you turn on the snares, that'll give you a little bit more texture change. That's pretty much the grip for the buzz. Whereas with the other rudiments, you'll use these back fingers quite a bit. So I hope that helps with your buzz, your single, your flam, and your drag.